welcome to episode 375 of the Postal Hub podcast. I'm Ian Kerr. Joining me in a moment is Jan van Roey. Jan is the head of international at Poste Italiane, and we're going to talk about various things relating to the international portfolio at the Italian postal operator. Before we get to Jan, a quick reminder that WMX Europe is on very soon in Rome. It'll be held from the 16th to the 18th of June. Jan will be one of the speakers at WMX Europe this year. Go to wmxeurope.com for details on how to register. And now, Jan van Roey, Head of International at Poste Italiane. Joining me on the line is Jan van Roey. Jan is Head of International at Poste Italiane and will be part of the stellar lineup. Let's put it that way. Part of the stellar lineup at WMX Europe, which is being held in Rome very soon. Jan, welcome to the podcast. Let's talk a little bit about the cross-border volumes that you're seeing at Poste Italiane. Have you seen growth in those cross-border volumes over the recent years?
Yes, we definitely have seen growth in recent years. Nowadays, of course, with everything going on in the world, it's a bit more volatile, I must say, but we still see growth, so that's the good news. In our case, of course, it's also due to the fact that we launched end of last year a new outbound product. So, and of course, being a new product, it's still growing. So hence we have growth, but also inbound, we still see growth. And then we also have a very large, as most of you know, a large Chinese business, Chinese volumes, and Chinese, with everything again going on in the world, it's a bit definitely volatile, but overall doing okay. Not the big growth numbers anymore we used to see last year, but still doing okay.
The growth in cross-border, I mean, are you seeing the sort of echoes of that in the domestic e-commerce volumes, or is it really that cross-border growth is outstripping what's happening domestically?
No, our domestic business is doing well. So there, in fact, is very stable. We see very little impact and it's going very well. Of course, we're a market leader, and as a market leader, of course, it's always a bit more difficult to keep on growing. So it's not massive growth percentages, but still we have a nice steady growth, and I don't see any issues there.
Tell us about this volatility then you referred to before, or the uncertainty. How is Poste Italiane coping with the uncertainty over the low value parcels at the moment, including those all the discussion in the international world about how those low-value cross-border parcels should be handled?
Now, I have to start with being very clear that we are very lucky in a way, although it's strange to call me lucky, and I'll explain what I mean. I currently, because I started this, doing these growth projects for international business, we have a very good service into Europe, but I have not launched commercial service outside Europe yet. So therefore, it doesn't touch me that much currently, because I have no volume to the US, I have no volume to other outside Europe countries. So therefore, it doesn't touch me that much. In a way, I'm lucky. No, you cannot call it lucky when you don't have a service, but you see what I mean. A question of impacts. But the strange thing is, although I don't have those volumes outside Europe, I'm still impacted, because what I do see and we do feel is a lot of nervousness by our customers, big customers, especially the Chinese again, and also because they have lost a lot of revenue and volume in the US. They're not doing so well, and we feel in negotiations and conversations, therefore they're even more strict than they already were on costs, on how do they deal, and having discussions with us, should we go to local distribution. We all know that some of Chinese are thinking about putting warehouses in Europe and maybe going local, etc. So there we do see the impact. So we have right now, discussion about maybe doing some local warehousing or some European warehousing. They are also trying to save money again, because they're doing not so well outside Europe, etc., etc. So it's more an indirect impact, but we do feel the impact.
Poste Italiane has a partnership with DHL eCommerce. Can you tell us a bit about that partnership, what it means and how it works?
Yeah. definitely. I would almost say it's my pet project. So, because it's something I started, I arrived at the Poste Italiane about 3 years ago now, and it was the first and big project I launched was a strategic relationship with DHL, and we're very happy with the way it's going, especially, I would say, with the relationship. It's a very steady, good relationship, a very open relationship, and that's important. I always, through my whole career, believe a lot in partnerships rather than trying to do everything yourself. Why not work with a good partner if you find one? But of course, it has to be a positive partnership and really a two-way street. And that's something we feel with DHL currently, so going very well. Also from their side, I know they're happy. What we do, to repeat, is inbound services, so everything DHL eCommerce picks up in the whole of Europe, we deliver for them in Italy. Then we have, as I said earlier, that we have a new outbound service. It's just simply the other way around. So I've created new product from Italy to Europe. I pick it up in Italy, then hand it over to DHL, and DHL will deliver it in all European countries. And then there's a third thing we do, which is also very exciting. Of course, we launched a new joint venture, so a 50-50 joint venture, and a company called Locker Italia. It does what it says on the tin, as they say in English. So it's a locker company we started, and that's also going well. Of course, it's startup phase, so the volumes are still not massive. But we only launched the company end of last year, and we're already now at 500 lockers on the ground. So we're really going very, very fast. And the plan is to go somewhere between, I would say, 2,500 and 3,000 by the end of the year. So we really have very aggressive plans to put a lot of lockers here in Italy together with DHL. Why I chose to do the strategic relationship with DHL was because we did not have a commercial offer from Italy to other countries. And of course, the contract with DHL gives me all countries in one go. I could have also found, of course, a partner for France, a partner for Germany, etc. But it would, of course, taken a long, long time to set it up and a lot of. So now, of course, it gives me a good service, a very good service, but at a decent price for the whole of Europe. So that's kind of one of the main reasons. Yeah.
You mentioned parcel lockers in there, and I wanted to ask quickly about how parcel lockers fit into the international delivery network for you. So those parcel lockers, and you mentioned, what was he aiming to have? Was it 2,500 by
Yes,
the end of by the end of this year? So as you're rolling out that new network, will they be used just for domestic deliveries, or will they also be available for cross-border delivery? So if somebody living in Italy orders from somewhere in Europe or wherever it might be, and they're getting it delivered to Italy, will they be able to use those lockers?
Yes, definitely. I mean, the answer is very clear. It's a very strategic choice that we want to have it for international too. And also, again, back to the previous question of the DHL relationship, also we are now linked. We can use all the lockers DHL have in the rest of Europe, and they can use our lockers in Italy. So again, it's a two-way street, and we use. So it's definitely a part. And because we all know, and I know also your articles and interviews have been mentioning it lately. We all know in the industry, locker business is really growing, and it's a pretty tough market, like any e-commerce market, but it's growing, and we really see the need. Because Italy, to be honest, was pretty slow in take-up of lockers, and they prefer to go to their local tobacconist and go and pick up their shipment. And while they pick it up, they have coffee and buy their newspaper or whatever. But it is, you really feel that it's moving. And for instance, some of the ones we have, like just to quote one example, in some of the city centers, in metro stations and train stations, are doing already, for being such a new service, are doing very, very well. Really, there's a lot of use. So there is no doubt that there is a need, and that we are fulfilling a need of the end customer.
Before we finish up, Jan, let's just talk about the technology side of things. We've talked a lot about the business, the cross-border, we've talked about parcel lockers, but let's talk a little bit about the actual technology. We talk a lot over the last few years about the customer experience, about tracking, about all these sorts of things, and Poste Italiane has been investing a bit in this side of it. What can you share that's been happening there?
Very happy you asked this question, because it's something we really focus on, and we're doing very well. I must say one of the biggest achievements we had lately is the implementation of what we call the super apps, or like, what is the super app? Because what's in the name? We used to have several apps for several things we do, because as you know, Poste Italiane is a group company. We have a bank, we have insurance, etc., and other services. We used to have several apps for several services, and now with Poste Italiane as a customer, you can use one app to do everything you need with Poste Italiane. So you can track your shipment on this super app, you can do your bank, you can do your insurance, you can follow your Wi-Fi account if you have it, you can follow your gas or electricity account. So everything in one, and in the main app, and that's, in fact, that was developed. It was promised last year by our CEO during the Capital Day that it will come. And here we are a year later, and it's live and it's going very well. So we do invest a lot in technology. We call it, in fact, we want to be phygital. Funny name, but you heard it probably before. So a combination, we want to be both physical with having, we, as you know, invested in our postal office where other companies are closing offices. We are opening offices and renewing offices. And at the same time, we're also going digital. So really want to have both options for customers. You want to deal with this digitally, we can all do it. We want to come to the office, we can also do it there 100%. So we really are a phygital company now.
It's been a very interesting digital transformation journey, really, for Poste Italiane over the last 15 years or so, hasn't it? But perhaps a conversation for another day. And another thing that we've probably a conversation for another day is the Polis project that you sort of alluded to there, and the renewal of post offices, the installation of ATMs in post offices, and so much we could talk about there, Jan. But we'll be here for hours if we do. If people want to find out more, of course, they can come to WMX Europe, which is being held in Rome, and Poste Italiane is one of them, or is the main sponsor. It's going to be held from the 16th to the 18th of June in Rome. Jan is going to be one of the speakers there. There'll be some other people from Poste Italiane presenting as well on various topics, including AI, I noticed from the program. If you go to wmxeurope.com, you'll see all the details there and how to register. And I'll look forward to seeing as many of you as possible in Rome in June. Jan van Roey, Head of International at Poste Italiane, thank you very much for joining us on the Postal Hub podcast today.
Thank you. Have a nice day. Thanks. Ciao.
Coming soon on the Postal Hub podcast, Dr. Selena Silvestri, research scientist at the MIT Centre for Transportation and Logistics, will join us to talk about e-commerce packaging. And Roel Gevaars, the professor in last mile logistics and supply chain at the University of Antwerp, will join us to talk about recent developments in Europe regarding low-value cross-border parcels. Don't miss any of these great interviews coming up on the Postal Hub podcast. Subscribe to the podcast in your favourite podcast platform, or even one that you're not really that in love with but you use anyway. While you're subscribing, do leave a rating, like a 5-star rating. That'd be ace. Thanks. Do people say ace anymore? Has it come back into fashion and gone out of fashion again? Does anybody care? I don't think I do. What else? You can subscribe to one of my great email newsletters. Let's stick with the hubris, shall we? No hubris? What is it? I'm over-egging things a little bit. I've got the Daily Delivery Digest. You've got the weekly newsletter, which comes out whenever there's a new episode of the Postal Hub podcast. And there's my monthly Post Office Digest email as well. Go to thepostalhub.com, follow the links to subscribe there. Or if you can't work it out, email me. My email address is ian@thepostalhub.com. I'm Ian Kerr. Thanks for listening in, and I look forward to your company next time on the Postal Hub podcast.